1690, William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, proposed the idea of connecting the Schuylkill and Susquehanna rivers by way of canal. However, this idea was not fully realized until nearly 140 years later. It was 1791 when the government of Pennsylvania approved an act allowing the connection.
The concept actually was originally William Penn's back as far as 1690. And he proposed coming up the Tulpehocken, which they eventually did, and going through Lebanon, PA on the Quitpahilla Creek, which still runs through the middle of Lebanon, and then picking up the Spataran and carrying that into the Susquehanna.
A year later, the Delaware and Schuylkill Canal Company was contracted to lengthen the canal from Reading to Philadelphia. This project was proposed in an attempt to encourage internal development and connect Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, but due to government disinterest, it never made any progress. The project finally gained momentum on April 2nd of 1811. On this day, the two companies known as the Susquehanna and Delaware and the Schuylkill and Susquehanna Canal Companies formed a group called the Union Canal Company. Despite this momentum, the project did not progress quickly. Capital was very scarce, and the majority of funding came from grants of lottery privileges. The canal would not be completed until 17 years afterward. The canal was finished on the 1st of January in 1828 and was utilized approximately 3 months later. The first boat to make use of the canal was called the Fair Trader, and by July of that year, 17 different boats had traversed the canal. By the end of the year, the canal's usage expanded to more than 200 boats. The Union Canal ran from Reading on the Schuylkill River to Middletown on the Susquehanna River, a distance that spans roughly 79.5 miles. The canal consisted of 91 locks, 8 basins, 93 bridges, 16 dams, and 17 aqueducts. Due to a lack of water near the canal, water had to be pumped uphill for 95 feet, which proved to be a process that cost more than the canal made in tolls. During the canal's conception, management ignored suggestions from the engineers to increase the canal's dimensions. As a result, the canal could not accommodate larger boats. Compared to the Schuylkill Canal's max weight of 200 tons, the Union Canal could only support 45. Despite such a drawback, the canal still enjoyed moderate success due to the Schuylkill Canal instilling interest in traffic from Susquehanna to Philadelphia by way of Reading.
From day one, they just shot themselves in the foot, ignoring the suggestions or recommendations of their original engineer. They wanted to make it wider and longer and an entirely different route. So they ignored the recommendation of their original engineer, who quit because they wouldn't listen to him.
Besides public road, the canal was the only source of transportation until the Columbia Railroad was completed. This railroad was originally devised in 1826 when a company was integrated to build a railroad from Columbia to Philadelphia. However, this project proved a failure, and it was not until 1828 that the state of Pennsylvania approved a survey for a railroad that would be constructed years later. In 1834, a railroad was completed that led to Lancaster, and a year later, the Columbia Railroad was opened. Upon the railroad's completion, the Union Canal Company found itself losing large amounts of business. The canal simply could not compete with the speed of travel that the railroad offered between the Susquehanna, Schuylkill, and Delaware rivers. This downfall was only hastened by the opening of the Lebanon Valley Railroad from Reading to Harrisburg in 1857. Use of the Union Canal continued to decline, and in 1884, the Union Canal Company went out of business.
They went out of business in 1884, and Schuylkill Navigation was actually still operating commercially till 1919. And they actually, the last shipment, well, it wasn't really a shipment, it was an empty boat, went through in 1931 on Schuylkill Navigation. Schuylkill Navigation had been completed in 1825, and they actually lasted till 1931. So they had over 100 years of success.